All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Right Life Draw. This will be the part 7, as I believe it is. Oh, the timer went out again. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. We're going to do a 15-minute run starting now. Part 7, as I said, of inking this penciled character of Merida from the movie Brave. And I've got the notes way up there, as you can tell. That was voiced by Kelly MacDonald, released on June 5th, 2016. All night we did our attribution of oh wait, I should also stipulate again that the pencils were done by Carlos Franco. As you can tell, they're at the bottom of the page here. I am just coming in as the inker. This was actually a commission that was done for me by him. He is a prevalent, current, and wonderful comic book penciler out of New York. If you wish to commission him, please by all means give him a ring. Tell him Manny sent you from Right Life Draw. All right, now that we've done the housekeeping, the bookkeeping, and all of that good stuff, let's get down to business. All right, let me put this down here. So as you can tell from the last 6 episodes, I'd started inking all the holding lines, all the filigree on the bow, which took forever it seemed, but it was wonderful to do, and then the fur on the bear and so forth. Now I've got to spot the blacks here, which is kind of, just tediously boring at times, but it's got to be done. Let's hope I can not get into the frame. And all you should see is actually just my hands doing their work. All right, nobody needs to see my big noggin. All right, so for today's episode, I've got I'm using the Copic multiliners mostly on this drawing. By the way, I should also stipulate this is an Eon drawing board. Fantastic Bristol board. I recommend it. It's my top of the line Bristol board to work on, whether I pencil it myself or I'm making someone else's work. Usually, if I would commission somebody or get to know them a little bit, I stipulate that they should hopefully pencil their stuff, for me anyways, on an Eon board. It's exquisite to ink on. All right, so a 0.1 and a 0.3. Hopefully you can see it there. Let me double check. All right, if the camera seems far away, all you have to do is you obviously do a 2-pinch, close up, or hit the X on your camera view, so it'll do a close up of whatever area I'm working on. I had to actually place the camera a little bit higher on the tripod because I was not getting the full frame shot of the actual drawing. All right, I got to stay in time, and I don't know why, but my timer keeps going out or turning off. I don't know why it does that. It's supposed to stay on. Okay. All right, so here we go. Hopefully I like to usually be a little nimble here. This is, by the way, a nondescript, beautiful Japanese brush. It's disposable. I can't read the characters, but it's fantastic. It just does marvelous work. You can tell that thin line right there. Oh, it's awesome work. All right, let me see here. We're going to have to get rid of this, do this, because I've been avoiding it like the plague. I really love doing the detail work. The rest of the stuff is just ho-hum. Still needs, skill and time and effort, but it just may not be quite as fun. All right, let me see. This is the one. Let me check the width of the line. No, it's too thin. We're not going to use that. The brush. I don't need the brush right now. This is the 1.0. You know what? I actually would need this. Let me show you something. I actually may have to flip the board upside down. Let me take this out of here so you can see the full drawing. All right, stay with me. All right, here we go. We don't need that brush. We might actually lower the board just a smidgen so you can see. Hopefully, let me cover the bottom with a rubber band here. Make sure we're in frame. All right, let's flip this upside down. Sometimes you have to do that to get to where you want to go. Let me pull this up so you can see it in camera view. All right, and get to it. Here we go. So sometimes it's just as easy as getting to work. Anyways, I hope this video finds you all well, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, whether you're seeing this at work, on a break, at home, or sitting around the campfire with a bunch of friends. If you can get the Wi-Fi signal up there or somewhere, wherever you might be. And I hope you're in good health and that you are working towards your goals and your dreams as much as I am. Which for me, is obviously big part of it is not only art, but just, the growth of this channel and my business endeavors. By the way, be aware that, again, I'm going to add some of that to the channel as I go along. Um, I do believe that business and art go hand in hand, especially in today's world. So even though I draw and I love to do all this stuff, I love to learn and read about, entrepreneurship, business, credit, finance, and things like that. And I may actually have some. Well, I will be pursuing that in my own time when I'm not doing this. Um, Let me see if this actually. Yeah, this is working pretty well. This is actually a 1.0 that it just has a thick point, but it's a bold point, strong. It doesn't have too much flex, but it's very smooth, so you can just roll it on the page. You don't have to press it down very harshly or anything like that. Also, the ink is just very dark, which is great. That's the purpose that we want. This is going to be gone in through with probably with brushwork. It's hard to use this. They taper off the corners of these 1.0s, so they seem round, but they're like a cube, almost a cube, but with tapered corners, so it looks roundish, but you can't really use the edge, so you have to sort of stick with it, sort of going like this, sticking it down on the board and just going flat. If you go like this at an angle, the line gets to be thinner, takes longer. If you face it completely down, it moves it almost feels like it's floating without me having to press on it too harshly. Look at this. All right, and I tend to ink these larger areas in circles, concentric circles that just sort of fill in quickly. And it's a lot easier to fill in uh, dark areas of shadow like this. Be aware of that if you want to practice that and do it in your own drawing. Some people can ink these large areas, like you can see the pencil lines here that were drawn by Mr. Franco, and they're sort of scattered, kind of almost hatching, sometimes cross hatching, like you can see them here, right here like this, here like this. But when you're actually inking, you don't want to do that because it leaves depending on the tool that you're using, you could leave a mark on the actual board, and also I think it on the ink. Again, it could be if it's maybe going to be photostated for print, maybe it won't show. But if it's just going to be handed off to somebody as a commission, or you're selling the page for whatever reason, well, I guess it would be just a commission. It would tend to show like that, lines of ink that are just very obviously there, and then you have all these lines going in all these different directions. So I would not recommend doing that. I learned to be patient even in large spaces. Now, with large spaces like this, I can just close this up and go to my trusty brush here. This is a Pigma Sakura brush, archival ink. These are Japanese made again as well. Fantastic tools. So let me show you what we could do with it. The brush, of course, is going to let out, it's going to drain quickly, but it's going to let out a lot more ink. And I can just move with it fast. So if you want to see fast brushwork, hang around. Usually I try not to go too fast with my brushwork, just because I like to do delicate things with the brushwork. And that takes practice. Again, it's not, you don't want to be a bull in a china shop. That's not the goal. You want to be able to, however, actually I should say, this brush has already been used and it's fading. It has ink, but the brush tip is already degrading. The one great thing about these is they are good solid brushes. They hold the tip and like here, watch this, see? I'm able to get into the small space here with this brush that's already been used and cast those shadows and all is well. However, if I was going to do something really small here, I think I'll use a pen for that, or another brush, a newer one, because they're not bristles. Obviously, they are a type of nylon, I believe. Well, they are the bristles, but they're made of nylon, I guess. The material. They're not obviously sable brushes or camel hair or any of that stuff. Actually, no, I might be able to actually get in the small space here as a cast shadow underneath the bear's jawline, and do something here. Yeah. If I don't have to work the shadows into a shape, which leads me into that other topic of inking. Not only where to cast shadows and how, but also, did you know that there's just ways to? I'm sorry if I sound too professorial. I'm not trying to be sound that way, but it's just things I've learned along the way that I'd like to share with you all. Um, there are ways to not sort of, to actually carve out. That's the right phrase. Carve out a drawing with ink. And I don't mean just a pen and do a sketch of someone's face at a cafe like I've done here, or other places, or at a park or at a beachside. No, no, no. I mean, once your drawing is done, or someone else is penciling that you're inking, you have to get inventive and creative and realize that inking is drawing. It's not. It's linked to the pencils because it is drawing, but it's its own thing. Like here, let me see if this is showing at all. Yeah, it looks like it is. All right. If you want a closer look of the exact detail, I think you're going to have to pinch your screen and expand the view. And I just like to draw in ink. I used to, when I first started inking, I was teaching myself how to do this. I think I was more inking the lines. That's not really what an inker is really doing, not in comics anyways. I mean, there are tedious pages. There's one in particular that I have that was drawn by, who was it that penciled that page? I think it was Freddie Williams III, who's done a lot of work for DC. And there was a skyscraper, a big city, New York's city scene. And of course, and they have another page, which I'll be finishing up here on the channel, of Sanford Green, early Sanford Green's work, which also had a cityscape with a lot of straight lines. And yes, you got to get out the ruler. Yes, you have to ink those too. Yes, it's tedious, but it's also rewarding in its own way, because the more you do it, the more you learn. It is literally, that's it. That's the secret. Over the years, I've had people ask me, like, what do you do? How do you do it? How can you do this? Blah, 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 blah. I go, well, it's really as simple as, oops, I forgot to actually I have a glove in there in my backpack, my blue glove. Let me see if I can find it quickly enough. It won't take up too much of our times. Oh my goodness, no. It's always good to have the glove on when you're inking. Otherwise, the bottom part of your... Yep, found it. See how quickly I can put this on. On the bottom part of your wrist will actually smudge the inks. These pens dry pretty quickly, but don't take a chance. You want to make sure that you stretch that glove in too as tightly as you can. Don't let it have a lot of... It might feel uncomfortable at first, but you get used to it. Especially if you get a big size glove like I do. I got big hands, so, and big feet, but that's another story for another time. And no, you don't get to call me Sasquatch, so y'all out there with the funny bones and the funny jokes, cut it out. All right, now. All right, so you get to see that, some sample of the close-ups. I can actually, let me do this. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I know. I apologize for that in advance. Let me see if this pen will do. Okay, this is a 0.3. Right here, I can tell from my vantage point. Hopefully my big head's not in view. If I want to extend the lines. Okay, that's our timer. All right, timer, we hear you. All right, let's turn that off. Hold on. Let's do. We're going to do that in a second. We're going to restart this. Bye, folks. We'll see you on part 7, part B.